Some big news from Washington. Today, President Trump signed an executive order to shut down the Department of Education. It's a historic move that years from now kids will not read about in history textbooks.
Any government agency is better than anything that's not a government agency. They just love the state. They're just statists. They have no idea whether the Department of Education has produced positive results or not, because they were raised in the system that they're projecting for the future. You can look in the rearview mirror. You can look at your own state of education. Hey, it's Friday, and that's a good thing, I think. I like Friday. I mean, at some point this evening, the weekend will be upon us. And that's a good thing. I think it's about 20 degrees outside right now, but it's going to warm up later today. What with climate change and everything, the sun coming up. We've got all kinds of. And President Trump, the Department of Education, executive order, kind of a big deal. I don't think that the Department of Education is going to technically go away, but you see the wrestling match happening nevertheless, and President Trump picking the fight that ought to be picked. It should be picked. We should talk about this giant government department with a cabinet secretary, and what a great job they've done creating the Department of Education. It's I'm from the federal government, and I'm here to help kind of situation. And what has happened to education in the United States of America since the creation of a government department, a cabinet-level secretary in charge of the Department of Education? I assume that the state of education has improved significantly over the years, thanks to the Department of Education, because, they created a government department. They're here to help. So I'm quite certain that the state of education has improved thanks to the government Department of Education. Or maybe not, as the case may be. People homeschooling like never before. Why is that? Why would people be homeschooling like never before? Well, there are good reasons for that. And President Trump explained a number of them yesterday at the White House when he signed the executive order, and he's calling on his Secretary of the Department of Education, Linda McMahon, to put herself out of work, to put herself out of a job as the Secretary of the Department of Education. Hey, it'd be great if you could make sure that by the time you walked away from Washington, there was no need for a Secretary of the Department of Education. And we will get into that because President Trump did speak, I think, quite eloquently on the subject yesterday, and I will share that with you. There is a great deal to say about all of that, and it's fun. And President Trump, he picks the fights that ought to be picked. So many of these fights that ought to be picked with the judges, the Obama appointees largely, these federal judges that are so hell-bent on stopping President Trump and abusing their meager power, because that's what the left does. The left is here, make no mistake. So we've got that going, and a lot to get to there. I love some of the stuff President Trump laying out what has happened to education since the creation of the federal government's Department of Education. And you may recall the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions are the big beneficiaries of all this because everything is crooked in the city of Washington, D.C., and the big winners are the unions, and they run their unions like they're gangster empires. But you may recall a president of one of the teachers' unions a few years ago was asked about representing the interests of the children, the students, and he said, well, I'll represent the students when they start paying union dues. That is, just declaring, I'm not here to represent the students. I'm here to represent the people that fill our coffers with money so we can corruptly buy politicians, overwhelmingly Democrat politicians. And I will share that with you because that's something that the news media has just erased from memory. They have no I like to point this out. They don't follow the news. They don't know what's in the news. They don't know what's in the news last week. I'm talking about members of the news media, million-dollar anchor men and women, and they got some in between, too, don't they? Remarkable stuff. But we'll get into that. Yesterday, the headline was NBC fake news. Trump set to sign executive order shuttering the Department of Education. And they're very upset about it. They have no idea. Again, no idea. But President Trump, he pointed a few things out. Now, I'll explain. Also, headline yesterday, Trump scolds federal judges after a series of setbacks in court. And that's a fight that deserves to be picked also because, too many tin pot dictators in black robes abusing the power that they have. And it's amazing that I think approximately 100% of them are Democrat appointees to the bench because the left, they take these cases to their left-wing allies with a wink and a nod and a little reach under the black robe and everything's good. Remarkable stuff. Wah, wah, wah. We've got that going. President Trump got on his own social media platform. Remember they said that was going to be a big failure and then turned out to be worth billions of dollars because, Donald Trump versus the left, they lie about everything and he just makes billions of dollars off of whatever it is. Remarkable stuff becomes a big success. They're trying to prevent that from happening with the United States of America. Success. That's what the left is here to prevent. But he went on Truth Social yesterday and talked about the judges, and it's good stuff there, too. Wah, wah, wah. And again, I was talking about it yesterday, that President Trump should just defy the courts, ignore the courts, and then play a soundbite that I'm going to play for you of Joe Biden when he was president not very long ago, defying the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court itself, not one random political appointee from Bozeman, but the entire Supreme Court ruled against Joe Biden and his, what do they call that, student debt relief? Is that what they called it? And the Supreme Court ruled against him, and he said, well, screw the Supreme Court. I don't have to pay attention to the Supreme Court. And President Trump should play that audio. They should play it in the White House briefing today. They should play the video in the White House briefing. They don't have to play the audio. They can play the video. But I'm on radio, so it's a little more complicated for me. Yeah. Speaking of which, a federal judge orders Trump administration to return trans inmates to women's prison. They're talking about two men who say, I'm a lady. And the Democrat said, oh, he's a lady because the convicted criminal says he's a lady. And I want to go to the ladies' prison, where we saw in New Jersey a couple of women got pregnant from other women, which is what they think can happen because they're anti-scientific. Remarkable stuff. But a federal judge ordered President Trump and the Trump administration to return two men to women's prisons. What could go wrong? And restart their sex change treatments because there are two paths to a free sex change in Democrat world. Become a criminal, commit crimes, get caught, be convicted, be sent to prison, and say, I'm a lady. And then the Democrats will send you to a woman's prison because they're mentally ill. They have a lot of mental illnesses, and that's one of them. And then, they could, if they were in high school, they could compete against the girls in swim meets and track meets and things like that, too, and steal their trophies and steal their scholarships and steal everything they've worked so hard for because the Democrat Party is East Germany. And they would send men to the Olympics and pretend that they're women, which they're actually in the process of doing, the Democrats are. They are East Germany. Wow, these people are quite something. Yeah, so return your, and I like it just says trans. That is transgender, cross-dressing, I would argue mentally ill people. They want to go to women's prison, and who wouldn't? If you're a man convicted of crimes that are going to land you in prison, every man would say, I'd like to go to the women's prison. Let's go. But then, the judge also says restart their sex change treatments at taxpayer expense. The other way to get your free sex change, what is it, Michael? Join the military. Join the American military because they want to hollow out the American military and leave us defenseless on the face of the rising tide of the Chinese communists in the 21st century with the help of the Biden family and the Democrat Party. Quite amazing stuff. Speaking of which, the Kennedy Center, President Trump is the new head of the Kennedy Center, and he put in new people to lead the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., next door to the Watergate complex and casting a shadow on the mighty Potomac River. But the Kennedy Center has fired an employee after he posted a video of himself stark naked in his protest against Donald Trump because he couldn't afford the costume or a Speedo or anything like that. So Kennedy Center fires employee after naked protest against Trump. And the quotation in the headline is, "This video is extremely disturbing. You silly, hairy little man." So, isn't that what they said in, Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery in the hot tub, I think? You silly, hairy little man. And there's a silly, hairy little man posted a naked video of himself as a form of protest. He's an employee at the Kennedy, well, he was an employee at the Kennedy Center. Now he'll doubtless sue and say that he's a woman and he wants to go to prison or something because they're all insane. Again, President Trump on Truth Social. The fake news is at it again. This time, the failing New York Times. They said incorrectly that Elon Musk is going to the Pentagon tomorrow, that would be today, to be briefed on any potential, quote, war against China, end quote. That's what the New York Times is reporting. How ridiculous, President Trump wrote. China will not even be mentioned or discussed. How disgraceful it is that the discredited media can make up such lies. Anyway, the story is completely untrue, President Trump wrote. And CNN went with it, too, because it's in the New York Times. The New York Times is the head of the centipede. The news media is not a pack so much. As a great old friend of mine always said, it's not pack journalism, it's centipede journalism. And the head of the centipede is the New York Times. And that's a fact. Speaking of the terrorists known as the Democrat Party, this is a good one, too. Most alleged Tesla Charger vandals, they're firebombing and Molotov cocktailing and using rifles to shoot up storefronts where they sell Teslas and threatening Tesla owners, telling them that they must sell their Teslas, otherwise the left-wing mob is coming for them. But listen to this. Most alleged Tesla Charger vandals have one thing in common. She, they pronouns. That's right. They got a lot of transgender terrorist vandal lunatics there. They're looking for the next excuse to commit suicide, I think, is that fits with the statistics, doesn't it? I believe it does. Wah, wah, wah. Amazing stuff. And a good headline at Fox News. Dems who supported Biden's plans to combat domestic terrorism now silent. Because January 6th, you got to remember January 6th, it's the only riot that ever happened in the little tiny minds of Democrats. Amazing stuff. Yeah, they were very angry, very, very angry about terrorism. It's domestic terrorism. And now they're firebombing locations and they're organizing a nationwide. It's next week on Dimwit's birthday. And they're orchestrating a nationwide attack on Teslas and Elon Musk, who is in grave danger every day with all the death threats and everything. But he's got to ramp up his security, which I'm sure is quite capable. Remarkable things going on in the Democrat Party. Yeah, the Democrats that supported Biden's plan to combat domestic terrorism, now they have nothing to say at all. Wah, wah, wah. And do they remember when President Trump had to be evacuated along with the first family from the White House residence, the private residence, to the underground nuclear bunker because of the criminal Democrat insurrectionist mob outside the White House for 3 days, attacking the White House, evacuating the president under these circumstances for the first time since 1814 when the British were attacking Washington, D.C. Wah, wah, wah. Also, their hero, Mahmoud Khalil, Columbia student, as he's an Ivy League student. Great stuff. He's supposed to be in court today, and a Columbia University student who praised the arrest of Mahmoud Khalil, talks about the death threats he's getting now from the terrorist Democrats, the party of the SDS and the Symbionese Liberation Army and the Weather Underground and the KKK, the Democrat Party. So I've got updates for you on that. Wah, wah, wah. Democrat Senator hammers AOC and Bernie Sanders. Not too much, though. And remember Congresswoman Cori Bush? Turns out she's got a husband. He might be headed to prison unless he gets an Obama judge. And we are at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Ah, yes. All right, so many amazing contributions to our society the Democrats have contributed just in the last 21 hours. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Jeff calling from Milton, Delaware. Jeffrey, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Oh, man, Chris, you got me unprepared. No, not really. It's just, to me, we all know that the left, the Democrats, will do anything in power, or anything they can to get back power. Mm-hmm. But I didn't think they'd go as low as just embarrassing themselves and denigrating themselves the way they have. Tim Walz, he is the equivalent to the bumbling sitcom father. If I can make a reference, he looks like a fat Dagwood Bumstead. Jasmine Crockett, she has turned into the foulest mouth of the foulest mouths, and she thinks that's going to get her some street cred. It's not. What's this guy Hogue or whatever, the young guy, is he even on the radar anymore? I mean, they have no one to throw out there. They have an all-star cast of nobody anymore.
Well, the most popular, there was a survey done of Democrats just within the last week. Who is the leader, the spiritual juju leader of the Democrat Party? And the person that got the greatest number of votes was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with 10% of the vote. And then I think Bernie Sanders got 8% of the vote. And they were together yesterday in Tempe, Arizona, yelling about oligarchs. And it was clear that 98% of the crowd of buffoons that were cheering in front of them had no idea what the word oligarch means, but that doesn't matter. It's the old point and hate. The Democrat Party could point at an avocado tree and they'd all hate it. In Illinois, the state of Illinois, formerly the land of Lincoln, the Democrats in the State House have a new bill that would dictate to parents that homeschool their children what they teach their children at home. Violation of the Fourth Amendment, intruding into their homes. They send guys in with rifles to say, this is what you will teach. Und it will be in German. They should teach, you got to homeschool in German because the Democrats are in charge, And you got to teach to hate the Jews. Got to teach them to chase Jews around. Homeschooling Democrats. Yeah, I've got this for you. It's pretty amazing. They've got a House bill that will mandate what parents teach their children that they're homeschooling, thus missing the entire point of homeschooling. But these fascists they know that the state must intrude everywhere, into your home, into your pants, and every place else. Quite amazing. All right, Michael, let's take another phone call. Go to the nice people, the real people. Let's go to Gary calling from Newton Falls, Ohio. Gary, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Hi, it's a wonderful day. Thank you for accepting my call. Hey, I'm trying to create a charity here, and I'm hoping maybe you can get behind it. It's a leftist for carbon neutral domestic terrorism. What I want to do is plant trees in Gaza to offset the carbon release from burning all these Teslas.
Let me see. Because the Democrats are putting so much smoke in the air by way of firebombing Teslas and Tesla dealerships that have those toxic batteries in them, the Teslas that the Democrats love so much, these toxic batteries made by little Chinese children, child labor, forced labor, slave labor, working their little fingers to nubs, making batteries made from minerals that were extracted from the earth in Africa by child labor with no labor standards because the Democrats need their electric cars. Remarkable stuff. But you say, and a lot of Democrats have been self-immolating too. You know, one Democrat self-immolated in a Tesla in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas recently, and he killed himself. It was a suicide attack. Yet another Democrat. Yet another Democrat suicide attack, putting a lot of smoke in the air because he blew up. And he rented the Tesla that he blew up and killed himself in. He didn't even steal it or buy it. He rented it and blew himself up in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. A lot of carbon put into the air there. Gary, you may remember the Democrat that self-immolated in front of the Supreme Court a couple of years ago on Earth Day. On Earth Day, wanted to put a lot of smoke in the air on Earth Day, his own smoke. And of course, we've had Democrats self-immolate at the Israeli embassy, and he killed himself there. And a woman self-immolated at the Israeli consulate in Atlanta. A man self-immolated outside the Trump trial in New York and killed himself. The Democrat Party is a mental illness, isn't it, Gary?
It certainly is. What we're hoping for is a carbon-neutral domestic terrorism in America. And God knows Gaza needs the trees. So, I think it's a win-win.
You could be onto so this could be a good charity because you're right. The Democrats, how do they offset? You know, they like Gary. We got Boltneck, John Kerry, who flies around on his wife's private jet, Gulfstream jet, lecturing people on their carbon footprints. Right, but then he explained that he's so important that he needs to fly around on private jets because he's doing such good work reducing other people's carbon footprints. They couldn't be bigger hypocrites if they set out to be bigger hypocrites. Were it not for double standards, they would have no standards at all, Gary. Am I right?
You are absolutely correct, sir, as always.
But I love your suggestion that we plant a tree in Gaza, maybe one tree to offset, because they love these offsets, right? And what right. I think Michael queued up Boltneck over here. Just for you, Gary, we got Boltneck.
On that issue, pollution, I understand that you came here with a private jet. Is that an environmental way to travel?
If you offset your carbon, it's the only choice for somebody like me, who is traveling the world to win this battle.
That's right. He's traveling the world, Gary, to win this battle, and therefore he's got to fly around on a Gulfstream jet by himself because his forehead is so large. He won't fit in a commercial airliner. His forehead's too big. So he's got to fly in his wife. He married very well, the heir to the Heinz food fortune. Very good, flying private wherever he goes. But if you're him, he rationalizes this like a member of the imperial court of Louis XIV, if they had private jets. And if you're me, it's so important because I'm doing such good work that I naturally deserve to fly around in a private jet. But you're right. We should and we could have the Israeli drop the trees from fighter jets, and we'll put spiky weights underneath them so they just punch a hole into the dirty sand in Gaza and automatically plant the trees, dropping them from planes like they're bombs.
Well, how will that affect the subterranean layer underneath there? I think we might have some problems, or is that what you're getting at?
That is a good point too. The network of tunnels that they dug with our money so they can hold hostages and torture and murder everybody. I think your plan is a good one though, Gary. And also you started out by saying it would be a charity, and we would raise money to plant trees in Gaza to offset the fires that they're setting when they firebomb Teslas and Tesla dealerships like the radical leftist terrorists that they are. And we'll make it a 501c3, right?
Right, but they're only going to take gift cards, no Bitcoin.
No Bitcoin, just gift cards. That's I am telling you.
Just saying.
You know, you've been given this thought. I think that's good stuff, Gary. That's wonderful.
It's important to me, Chris. It's important to me.
I think you're focused on what really matters, and that's slowing the rise of the oceans.
Yes. Praise Barack Obama.
That's right. Just like Barack Obama, slowing the rise of the moment he was elected, that's when the rise of the oceans began to slow, because don't you know who he is?
This was the moment when the rise of the oceans began to slow.
They're all cheering.
And our planet began to heal. This was the moment.
Nobody's asked him, Gary, since then, hey, has the rise of the ocean slowed? Has the planet begun to heal?
Well, it's like Lily von Shtupp said, what a guy.
It's a Lily von Shtupp reference. That is outstanding. Blazing Saddles. That is just great. Sorry, baby, but 15's my limit on Schnitzengruben. That is great. Gary, thank you very much. That's great fun. What a great Friday call. That's great. Yeah, offsetting, and it's a great idea. We should set up a charity. We'll call it Gary Pack or something, and we'll raise money to plant trees in Gaza with the stated purpose, the intended purpose of offsetting the fire bombings that the Democrat Party is perpetrating from coast to coast. They've got a big one coming up, a big nationwide attack on civilization, because you got to keep in mind, these people are not liberals. They're the left. How many times do I have to say it? They are the left. They're not liberals at all. Amazing. Gary, thank you. Great call. I'm going to talk about that at dinner tonight. That's a fun plan. I did mention this crazy story, and I want to save this, I think, for the top of the hour, but the bill that could change homeschooling rules across Illinois. These people, can I just say, these people. That's an amazing story. Yes, sir. And speaking of Democrats, this is a good one. The Daily Caller has the story. Cori Bush, you remember Democrat Congresswoman Cori Bush? She hates you and America. Cori Bush's husband, now former Democrat member of the House of Representatives, charged in alleged COVID fraud scheme. A COVID fraud scheme? What do you mean, fraud? COVID? Can't believe that. That's amazing stuff. But the Daily Caller has the story, and the Washington Post does not, because the Washington Post is not a newspaper. The federal court in D.C. charged the husband of former Democrat Missouri Representative Cori Bush on Thursday with fraudulently obtaining over $20,000 from the Paycheck Protection and Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program during the pandemic. Courtney Merritt's, they don't have the same name, of course, 46 years old, faces federal charges and is indicted on 2 counts of wire fraud for allegedly exploiting Small Business Administration loan programs during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the indictment. Merritt's allegedly secured over $20,000, not even a lot of money, to risk years in prison by defrauding the government and wire fraud and all this stuff. But, they're greedy and they figure they could just get away with it, like Nancy Pelosi always has. Hey, Nancy, have any stock tips you'd like to share? So $20,000 through a fraudulent application and submitted in 2020 and 2021 under the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which naturally they called the EIDL. And then they sit around at tables and in the EIDL we have the, oh, shut up. Speak English, you bunch of government people. And Paycheck Protection Program, that's the PPP. That's the PPP. It's not the only PPP that they've abbreviated to PPP, though. U.S. Attorney Edward Martin Jr., along with key federal agents, said Merritt's manipulated Small Business Administration provisions designed to aid struggling businesses July 2020, Meretz allegedly claimed an $8,500 EIDL loan for Vetted Couriers, a business that allegedly had 6 employees and $32,000 in annual gross revenue. A day later, Meretz, the husband of the Democrat member of the House of Representatives, applied for another EIDL loan, this time as a sole proprietor, inflating his employee account to 10 and reporting $53,000 in revenue. Small potatoes. The SBA denied additional funds upon finding his applications nearly identical. The fraudulent schemes escalated when in 2021, Meretz secured $20,832 in the PPP loan by allegedly and falsely declaring a new business with gross income of $128,000. He later filed for loan forgiveness because with the Democrats, it was always with a wink and a nod. I mocked this at the time. And they said, yeah, you take it out as a loan, but then you just never pay it back. See? Because don't you know who we are? And it's a wink and a, hop into the sleeping bag with your fellow Democrats. Pretty amazing stuff. Wah, wah, wah. The Small Business Administration eventually forgave the PPP loan, including interest, based on his deceptive assertions. Sure, no problem. In light of Cori Bush's husband's recent legal challenges, it was reported that she continued making payments to him despite the ongoing federal investigation. It's all a slush fund. The whole government is just their private, personal slush fund. And, President Trump and Doge and Elon Musk, they found $20 billion that the Biden administration forked over to a bunch of radical left environmental groups before fleeing Washington, D.C. And when the Trump administration said, well, wait a minute, this is just to pals of the Democrat Party, $20 billion who claim to be environmental groups, but they're just Democrat front groups and they donate money to the Democrats, so the Democrats give them taxpayer money by the billions, by the tens of billions. And then a Democrat-appointed judge jumped in and said, hey, Trump, you can't claw that money back. Washington terminology, claw back that money, right? This city is the most corrupt city, certainly in Western civilization. Amazing stuff. All right, let's grab a quick phone call. Let's go to Frank, calling from the tiny state of New Hampshire. Frank, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm good, Frank. What do you know? What do you say?
Well, my thought was this, rules for radicals. With one of the biggest things with rules for radicals is you can have is ridicule, and I think this guy Judge Boasberg, has overstepped his bounds. And from my point of view, I just think that Trump or somebody, maybe Holman, can say something, when he's discussing a raid or something. He says, well, we had to run it by Judge Boasberg because, after all, he runs my department. And I just think that, if you ridicule him, he's well out of line trying to track down what happened when his order was, he expects a plane to be turned around. He's really full of himself. That's my humble opinion.
Well, your humble opinion is entirely correct, of course. And you're right about rules for radicals and Saul Alinsky. And Barack Obama was a Saul Alinsky rules for radicals guy, big time. Hillary Clinton, a big time Saul Alinsky rules for radicals guy. And it was rule number 5 in rules for radicals. 12 rules for radicals, but rule number 5 in Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals. Again, the guiding light for the leadership of the Democrat Party today from Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama on down. But rule number 5 is ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Well, other than nuclear weapons, of course, which the Democrats are helping the Ayatollahs get real soon. They want to fast-track that. Yeah, spin your centrifuges, enrich your uranium. Keep your nuclear program going. We know you're perfectly innocent and just want to cure cancer. Hey, wait, didn't Joe Biden cure cancer? Wasn't he going to? He had his moonshot to cure cancer. What happened to that? All he did was leave 2 Americans stranded in space. I don't think that was much of a moonshot. Yeah, rule number 5, Frank, is ridicule is man's most potent weapon. There is no defense. It's infuriating. And there's no defense against ridicule. I actually adopted many years ago, Frank, because of Saul Alinsky, I adopted that rule too. Of course, it kind of came naturally to me anyway. But when I saw it was one of the rules for radicals, hey, the Democrats deserve this pie in the face, don't they? Yes, they do. Frank, good one. Thank you, buddy.
Oh, what a nice guy.
You know, the Democrats are making a big fight over an election for a Supreme Court justice in the state of Wisconsin because the Democrats demand, and it's for the majority balance of the Supreme Court, so they're waging jihad to try to secure an April Fool's Day Supreme Court election in the state of Wisconsin because it could come down to Wisconsin and on presidential election day, and then we'll drive it to the Supreme Court, and then we'll steal it there. This is how fanatical the left is. They're insane, and they're fighting this fight, hammer and sickle, in Wisconsin for one seat that would give them majority control in the state Supreme Court in a potential key swing state because they're laying the groundwork to steal. And they're making a real big deal. And they got the news media demonizing the Republican candidate and slandering, the media, the powerful ally to have. They're sleeping together, All right, let's go to the telephones again. Let's go to James calling from the great state of Arkansas. James, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey,
Thanks
James.
for taking my call.
You bet.
First of all, you're a great talk show host. Love listening to you every day.
Well, thank you very much. We do what we can.
I appreciate that. It just came to me yesterday. Maybe if John Roberts wasn't such a coward, and I hope he's listening to me calling him a coward on nationwide radio because he's a coward. Because you know what? If they would police their own judicial system, people like Donald Trump and the rest of us wouldn't have to squawk.
That's true. That is 100% true. And he is the Chief Justice of the United States of America, the Chief of the Judicial Branch, the Article 3 branch of government. And you're right, he should be disciplining judges, not, fluffing them and rewarding them for being part of the sustained, orchestrated attack on Donald Trump and President Trump's political agenda, which honestly is what we're watching. And I know you know that, James.